Welcome to James Price from AIIM Choices. Welcome, James.
Thanks, Phil. Good to be here. Long time actually. No, we haven't spoken.
It has been. So, maybe if we just start off, if you can introduce what it is that your business actually does.
Okay, so our business AIIM Choices. We do plan management for the NDI within the NDIS umbrella, and okay. what that is two things. The first one, to put it in its basics, is pay the bills for people that are on the NDIS for services they receive in relation to their disability. So we look after their finances from that perspective. But equally, if not more important, we're here to support them and help them.
Fantastic. And so what geographic area do you cover from your office then, James?
We're based in Wodonga, but we've got staff Australia-wide. We've got participants Australia-wide. So, yeah, we're basically Australia-wide. And that gives me a good excuse to travel everywhere.
Wow, that's wonderful. And how long? Oh no, maybe if we go with, how did you actually get into this business?
My history is I'm an accountant, financial planner. I was in accountancy for 30 plus years. I was getting bored with it. Back in 2017. I was doing a tax return for a lady who was a social worker, but also a friend. And we started talking about, it was about this time in 2017, early 17, we started talking about the NDIS. It hadn't arrived in the border region at that stage. Mm-hmm. We spoke for 1, 2, 3 months, whatever it was, periodically about it, doing some research, whatever. About the middle of the year, June, July, I decided, oh yeah, this seems like fairly straightforward from an accountancy perspective. If I can get 10 to 20 participants, I'll make enough money out of that to pay for my holiday, and I can just do it at home at night time, and that's where the business spawned from.
Okay, so and what was your key learning as part of that journey?
Well, I was lucky in that, and this was pure luck because I didn't realise at that stage, but it was 2017 was when the NDIS was rolled out in the Albury, Murrumbidgee area. So I was the only plan manager that had registration when it was rolled out in that on the northern side of the river, and then 2018 it was rolled out in Wodonga on the southern side of the river. And again, I was the only person with any organisation with NDIS registration to be able to do it. So I jagged the time, but yeah, as I said, I was hoping for 10, 20 participants. I was lucky enough to get that within about 3 months. Mm-hmm. After about 6 months, or it just no, it was more than a mushroom. It took off to the stage where I realised in 2008, late 18, 19, I couldn't cope with everything, and because I was working till midnight, 1 o'clock every night on the NDIS plan management. So I took the steps and we sold our accountancy financial planning business as of 30th of June 2019, and since then have been solely focused on the NDIS and plan management, and we also now do access applications, which is assisting people to apply for the NDIS.
Yeah, so I guess when you first started out, it's turned out to be a bigger monster than what you had originally envisioned?
I wouldn't call it a monster, but it's turned out to be yeah, far bigger than I could have envisaged, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been really lucky from that perspective.
No, that's great, James. So who would make an ideal client for AIIM Choices?
Anyone with a disability, and if they're with a permanent disability, and if they're on the NDIS already, that's not even better. But yeah, if they've got a permanent disability, we can help them apply for the NDIS, and then once they've got their NDIS funding, hopefully they'd choose us to do their plan management, look after their funding.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
that's anyone Australia-wide.
Australia-wide. And in terms then of, when you think back to when you first started, what's been some of the biggest issues that you've had to overcome in order to get where you are today?
If you ask for staff, it's probably me. Because I started off with this little dream, the little thing that I was just going to do at home, at home, and use basic accountancy systems and whatever, which was all well and good. But as we grew from 50 to 100 to 500 to 1,000 participants and continued to grow, might seem strange, but even though I was an accountant for 30 years, I'm not a real systems person. And, as we grew, I realised that we had to have systems, otherwise it just turned into a train wreck. And that's been as big a challenge for me, just personally, be willing to accept those systems and go with them, and as part of their development, as for the business itself.
Yeah. And James, when you're thinking about those systems, because systems can cover quite a broad area, what were some of the key systems that enabled you to keep taking those steps forward?
Well, if you listen to any business planner, accountant, whoever, they'll always say one of the first things you've got to do is plan. And so we developed a strategic plan started talking about that after 6, 8, 12 months or whatever. And that strategic plan has evolved as all strategic plans do since they're living documents. And we've now got them down to our core of our strategic plan these days are 3 basic things. AIIM Choices, it's got to be a great place to work.
Yep.
If it's not that, last thing I want is I want to come to work and enjoy myself and be happy, and I want all my team colleagues to do the same.
So that's based around culture then?
Culture is extremely important to me.
Yep.
And we've had 2 kind of cultural, or 3 kind of cultural areas where we've had evolve. The first is part of history is I've always in the accountancy, I had a lot of involvement with people from different ethnic origins, especially in Asia, and I wanted to keep doing that to the stage now, where we have a significant number of people that are from non-Anglo-Saxon backgrounds. At present, we've got I think it's 56% of our staff were born outside of Australia.
Right.
And we've now got over 40 staff. So
yeah. Okay, so getting that as part of the system in place. What were some of the other
The
key
next,
systems?
the next thing on culture was, in conjunction with a great place to work, was pre-pandemic, everyone came in the office, and I'd regularly hear from people not part of the organisation that they like coming here because they can hear people laughing, enjoying themselves and whatever. And so participants and general public found that it was a great environment just to even come into the office. They felt calm, comfortable, happy, and all those sort of feel good things.
Yes.
Come pandemic, everyone working from home, then okay, so there was no one in the office. Most of the time during the pandemic, we had 4 people in the office on basically a permanent basis. While all the rest of the staff were working from home, remote.
Yes.
So,
yep.
Maintaining the culture and the work environment and all that sort of stuff through communication while everyone was working remotely was kind of a evolution of that culture, development and everything.
Yep.
And then when pandemic was over, whenever that was, depending on who you believe, then getting staff back into the office. Most of them weren't really keen initially, but you'll ask them now. They're happy with that, and I've got a rule that I've got to be in the office a minimum 3 days a week.
Okay. Yep.
So staff know that. And so they've adapted to that, and we've worked at maintaining culture, attitudes, all those sort of things.
Yes.
And we're about to double the size of our office space, and within the building where we are. And the current one is all of a sudden about half of our staff are going to go into a separate open plan office space on the same floor in the same building, but we're not all going to be together. And so, and that's going to be one big team. How do we keep that team and all the rest of the organisation communicating with each other instead of being 2 separate groups? And that's what we're going through and working through and enjoying the challenge of doing now.
Fantastic. And so any other systems that have been important as part of that journey for you, James?
With systems are all very good, but when I started, at the heart of the business was one of the other 3 of our strategic plan was we listen, we care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all very well to have systems and all that to flow through and whatever, but more importantly to me was that we listen, we care, having the heart for the participant that we're talking to, helping, supporting, and ensuring that ethos or whatever doesn't get lost in the system because we're trying to do results. Yes. We're processing over 7,000 invoices a week these days.
Wow.
And so you've got X number of staff processing those invoices, and I don't want them to be sitting there just data inputting. I want them to be communicating with the participants and with the service providers, creating a relationship so that they both the external world outside this office is feeling that they're part of the team instead of kind of, oh, if they're out in the world, what the heck would. And so having that sort of culture again, but in relation to AIIM Choices and the people outside this building, having that how that interconnected culture,
Yep.
and still being able to develop the what you call systems has been a challenge, and it's something that that was one of the pluses for the pandemic, because our staff were working remotely. We were forced to develop our system so that everyone could work remotely, still be efficient in what they're doing.
Yep.
And the natural flow on for that was, and what we kept in mind, that those systems didn't impact on the relationship we were trying to develop with our participants and the service providers and the public at large.
Yes, actually, that's great to hear that, because one of the things that when I'm working with my clients, the things that we're always looking to do is systematize the routine, humanize those exceptions, because it's too easy to lose that human contact, which is just so important, particularly with customer service.
Yeah, now to me, it's the other way. It's other way around. You've got to have the human knowledge, because if we don't have that and the customs, there's no use having the systems. So having the human, their relationships are more important than the systems. But if you ask some people in the office here, they might disagree.
Okay. So, James, given your background and your journey throughout business, what would you say to anyone that was thinking about going into business? What would be your words of wisdom?
Oh, have a dream and stick to it. And don't let people say, "Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that." If you're passionate enough about something, the results will come, or you'll be forced in, assuming you've got the common sense. That passion will be demonstrated to whether you can, your dream is realistic and whatever. And if it's not, well then hopefully you've got the common sense to realise that before you go too far, and you can either refine it, pull the pin, stop it, whatever. Yes. But if you think that it's something that has got merit, well then you go for it, and with common sense going forward, let it develop and grow from its embryonic stage through to maturity.
Great words of wisdom. Thank you so much for that, James. Is there any final words of wisdom before we finish up?
Oh, I could rave on all afternoon. I keep saying that, I don't believe I'm the most intelligent person in the world and whatever. But one of the things that and because of that, I acknowledge I have team members around me with more knowledge, wisdom, whatever you call it, but also aspiration to, I'm not afraid to say to them, this is where I want to finish up. This is where we are now. How do we make it happen? And some of the team members here, they get frustrated because I'll come in one Monday morning after 2 hours on the mowing in the yard on the weekend and coming and solving the problems of the world. And I'll come in and say, look, what about this or that? And after they scratch their head and have a whinge for a few minutes, we'll sit down and start talking about it. And that's okay. Here we are now. Here's where we want to go. Can we make it happen? Is it realistic? And it's by doing that, it's amazing some of the stuff and ideas and that come out of that sort of thing. And it's not just me asking questions and saying, I want to do this, how can I do it? Because that's a master-servant sort of relationship. And we've got, what, over 50 staff now. And as much as I can, I'm still trying to make it a flat sort of structure.
Yes.
So I like playing a thing I call catch ball. Don't know whether you've heard of it or not, but
Yep.
yeah, where I throw like this morning I was talking to one of my colleagues about something and we didn't know the answer. So one of the other staff just walked past and I called her in and I said, oh, what do you think happens with the numbers with this? So I've thrown the ball to her. She's muttered around for a couple of minutes, throw the balls all up there. Then she's throwing the ball back to me with, this is what I think. So instead of me asking her giving me an answer, kind of a master servant, she's feeling as if she's on the same level as me because I've invited her back and she's come back with what she thought was a answer that contributed to the conversation and everything. So then I told her to go and do some work, but she's walked out of the room happy.
Yeah.
Because in that, so that's something I do all the time.
Yeah, and I really applaud you for that, James, because that's great leadership. And I also totally agree with the words that you said, is employ people who are better than you are. So yeah, well done. Well, thank you for your time today, James. It's been such a pleasure talking with you and learning about the journey that you've had throughout your career. So thank you again.
No worries. Thanks very much for the opportunity, Phil. And we look forward to the exciting future ahead for both you and I.
Thanks very much, James.
Thanks, mate. Bye.